Barney, are those new Fruity Pebbles?
Yeah, Fred, but why don't they look and taste the same?
Barney, that's because they're no longer made with red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, and blue number 1.
Gee, Fred, is that why Bam Bam stopped accidentally bludgeoning people with his wooden club?
That's right, Barney. Red 40 and yellow 5 have been linked to hyperactivity in children, so no more Ritalin Adderall cocktail for Bam Bam.
Which only suppressed the problem until he started hearing the voices that told him to kill.
That's right, Barney. And without the blue number 1, now my daughter Pebbles doesn't have the searing daily migraines, so she stopped cutting herself and talking about taking her own life.
But gee, Fred, Fruity Pebbles still has all the sugar, right? They didn't take that away, did they, Fred?
Nope, 50% of daily sugar for a kid in just one delicious bowl.
So our children will still be among the fattest kids in the world?
Yep, new Fruity Pebbles. Now with no more artificial dyes. Part of this nutritious breakfast.
Fred, isn't that a glass of orange juice? And doesn't it contain 100% of recommended daily sugar for kids?
Don't go there, Barney. Don't go there.
I'm Mark Mosley. Welcome to the show. Yeah, RFK Jr. and Donald Trump's Make America Healthy Again agenda now has, get this, Walmart announcing this week that they're taking all artificial dyes out of their store brand products. That's great news for Americans, isn't it? Of course, the left is going to point out that Donald Trump, quote, eats McDonald's once a day. I don't need to police how Donald Trump personally eats. I just would love some healthier options for my grandkids, okay? Is that okay? Is it okay that Donald Trump is a big old hypocrite when it comes to food? Or does that make him, well, you know who else ate McDonald's twice a day, right? Hitler. I have it on good authority that Hitler had a Big Mac for lunch every day. Well, as of the recording of this episode, the federal government is still shut down. Whose fault is that? Well, everyone who voted to shut it down, right? But some folks on the left would have you believe that that's either not how this works or not the point. The left is always the boss of what the point is. Have you ever noticed that when you're debating with them? That's not the point. Oh, okay. You get to say what the point is. Listen, if you voted against the continuing resolution, then you voted to shut the government down. But somehow voting to shut the government down is not why the government got shut down. I honestly don't know how that is in any way logical. But it makes sense to people on the left. The House passed the continuing resolution, but in the Senate, to keep the Republicans from passing it, because we have the numbers in both houses, the Democrats decided to filibuster. Now that raises the bar to 60 votes needed, and that would have involved several Democrats crossing over the aisle to vote with Republicans to pass the continuing resolution, which is Biden's budget, by the way. And that's why the vote failed in the Senate, in which case that would be the Democrats' fault, since they were the ones doing the filibuster. But you can't vote to shut down the government and then turn around and say, but that's not why the government got shut down. Or I guess you can. Imagine if my wife and my son and I were all trying to decide where to go eat. Chili's or Olive Garden. My son votes for Chili's, and my wife and I both vote for Olive Garden. We're going to Olive Garden. Well, I can't turn around later and say, yeah, I voted for Olive Garden, but that's not why we're not at Chili's. Yes, it factually is. In the real world, the only one that we have that we can live in. But this is not the real world. This is politics. Here is Mike Johnson being asked what he could do, what he could change to make Democrats happy.
You are the Speaker of the House. There is, in fact, a lot you can do. Well, there's not, actually. Let me explain that. As you noted, they're voting right now on the Senate floor. We'll see how that turns out. Last night, two Democrats and an independent flipped and came along with the Republicans. But it looks like, and what we expect, is that most of the Democrats in the Senate, again, will reject the clean CR that we sent over. It's clean. What that means is it's nonpartisan. We didn't add any Republican priorities or poison pills or gimmicks or tricks into that at all. It's 24 pages. I mean, everybody can read it for themselves. It simply continues the Biden-era spending levels that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have already supported in the past. They just did it most recently in March. And he gave long speeches about how it was so critically important that we not shut the government down. There's nothing for me to give. There's nothing to negotiate. I don't have any Republican priorities to put on the table because we sent over a clean CR. And that's why none of this makes sense.
Okay.
Now, the left is claiming that they fought against the continuing resolution because they are fighting for, quote, Americans to have health care. And yes, there are some Americans whose free government health care is being taken away since the passage of the big, beautiful bill. Able-bodied Americans without dependents who could be working but are not, some of them are having their free ride taken away. I understand that is a sticking point. We could debate that, right? We could hash that out, but we can't get there because the government shut down. The other group is a whole bunch of non-citizens because the big, beautiful bill also restricts free taxpayer-funded health care benefits to non-citizens. Now, I'm using the word non-citizens and not illegals for a reason. I do use the term illegals. I do. I'm not scared of it. I know it's politically incorrect to say illegal alien, even though that's how the law is written. But that's not what these people who will be affected are. They're not illegals. They're non-citizens. That's what they are. What they are called is parolees. The executive branch, through the Department of Homeland Security, can admit illegals and then designate them as parolees, which makes them legally present non-citizens, aka illegals. But no, don't say illegals. They're legally present. The president has declared it so. So the parolee program from 1998 to 2003 designated 250,000 illegal immigrants. They were named parolees. Remember these numbers. From 98 to 2003, that would be end of Clinton, beginning of Bush, 250,000. Obama named a modest 40,000 between 2009 and 2016. Trump 1.0 designated 20,000 people. Then Biden came along. Biden let in over 7 million illegals, and then, like waving a magic wand, he made 2.5 million of them parolees. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Now a whole bunch of very grateful future Democrat voters, that is to say, parolees, can potentially access taxpayer-funded federal health care benefits. So now your favorite congressperson, your favorite CNN anchor can say, illegals can't get Medicaid. Republicans are lying. But when Joe Biden waved the magic wand and changed them from frogs to princes, metaphorically, I am not calling human beings frogs, that just magically changes everything. And that's why I say this is all word games. Changing an illegal status to parolee makes them temporarily a lawfully present non-citizen. Then these non-citizens can access federal health care benefits. Under federal law, 8 U.S.C. 1612 and 1613, go look it up, some non-citizens can potentially access Medicaid CHIP, and they can qualify for the Affordable Health Care Act coverage. Regardless of status, even undocumented immigrants can get emergency Medicaid for life-threatening conditions or for childbirth. And we could debate that. We could be debating whether or not they should on a per-case basis, but the country is just too busy parsing words and changing the meaning of words to try to avoid blame for the shutdown, instead of everybody just speaking plainly and telling the whole truth. And when you talk to people on the left, they can't see what Biden did there. Paroling 8 times more refugees in just 4 years than were paroled in the whole previous 20 years. 8 times what Bush, Clinton, and Obama and Trump 1.0 did. That's not at all unusual? That's not at all suspect? No, because liberals think all Democrat politicians are completely altruistic with no political motivation, and whatever Republicans do is always inherently evil. So to sum up, Democrats voted to shut down the government by filibustering. Medicaid for able-bodied citizens is being restricted. Non-citizens getting Medicaid is also being restricted. Those are the facts. Now, we could be discussing whether or not those restrictions are fair or if they lack compassion, but we can't even get there because everybody is so busy just being disingenuous. For example, here's Maxine Waters. Actually, Maxine spilled the beans here. Maxine, who is a good 7 years past her sell-by date, if Maxine Waters was a gallon of milk, she'd have visible chunks floating in her. Maxine accidentally said the quiet part out loud here and then gets upset because she realizes she's been bamboozled, emphasis on the booze.
Do Democrats want to prioritize the health care of illegal aliens over a government shutdown? Because if the government does shut down, Americans...
Excuse me, stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement to keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
But are Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody. We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
No,
you're divisive. No, you're not.
Yeah, no,
you're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me. We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Congress.
Twice in that clip, she's given the opportunity to say health care for all Americans. She says, or healthcare for all citizens. She both times says healthcare for all people. She avoids using the word Americans or the word citizens and instead chooses to use the words all people. As they say, she said the quiet part out loud. Now, Congressperson Sarah McBride, who knows a little bit about performance art, made a very cute video after the House voted and basically everybody went home. Here's some of the audio from it.
All my Democratic colleagues are here. I'm going to go search for my Republican colleagues. Republicans, y'all know there's a government shutdown. Republicans, anyone here? Is Mike Johnson in here? Let's see if some Republicans are in here. Are there any Republicans in here? Hello? Republicans? No Republicans here. They left a mess and left town. No Republicans on the train. Republicans. Have you seen any Republicans? Are any Republicans here? Hello, Republicans. Does anyone know how to fix this thing? Hello? 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 Hi, Democratic colleague. Max, I'm looking for Republicans. Have you seen any?
I have been looking too. They're nowhere to be found.
Have you guys seen any Republicans? No. I don't know where they are.
That is some mighty fine acting there. He's in the House. He's not a senator. He's in the House The House had already voted and passed the continuing resolution when this video was posted. He has absolutely no point at all. It's the whole thing is a useless exercise and pure propaganda and really, really cringy. It's quite lame. Plus, it's way too long. I mean, minute and a half. All the Gen Z kids swiped up about 4 seconds in. You could say it drags on. Okay. And Trump with the sombrero memes. Trump's sombrero. Now, look, is this my favorite thing? No. I mean, look, is it a little childish? I think it is. But you know who else is constantly petty and can't take it when it's done to them? So honestly, they've brought it on themselves. Again, you were the ones actually doing the actual filibustering so that a vote couldn't be taken. You pitched a fit. You might as well have just flung your bodies onto the floor of the House and started kicking your legs and screaming a high-pitched squeal. And look, no, I don't love it, but people need to learn that Trump doesn't give a rip. I mean, you have to look forever at his behavior through the lens of what you tried to do to him. That's the thing. The left thinks they bear no responsibility for how Trump behaves, as if they have not made him their enemy. Let's review. The left created Trump. Now, I don't mean literally created him or created him as a business person or a world famous celebrity, but they created Trump, the candidate, by boosting him up in 2016 because they understood that the conventional wisdom was he'd be the easiest candidate for Hillary to beat. And he should have been. I was a Ted Cruz guy all the way. Even in 2020, I was originally for Ron DeSantis over Trump because I love DeSantis. Because to me, DeSantis is everything you love about Trump and nothing you don't. But in 2016, the media put all their focus on Trump. The strategy being to do whatever they could to help him become the nominee so they could give Hillary an easier win. Okay, so then Trump wins. And then he's not only opposed by the left, but also many on the right. First came the Russian collusion hoax. Then came impeachment. Then the pandemic, which we could talk about all day. And then another impeachment. And both of the impeachments, if you step back and look at them, were for the flimsiest of reasons. The flimsiest of cases. And then in 2020, the efforts to put Trump in prison for the rest of his life, to destroy him financially, to destroy his family's fortune, to destroy his name, trying to take him off the ballot, and ultimately trying to kill him. Now, should a man that all that has happened to, all those efforts to destroy him, how should he conduct himself? Would any of us act towards people who committed all those sins against us? Would we turn the other cheek? We all like to pretend we just want justice, but our sinful human nature really craves revenge. And Trump's not a Christian, so he's certainly not going to turn the other cheek. He's not going to hand over his coat as well. He said it at Charlie Kirk's memorial. He said, "I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry." And I get that. I get that. It's a much easier pill for sinful humans to swallow. So, yes, this is the Trump you guys got now. But the left never wants to recognize their hand in it. So, yes, we're going to have division. And I suspect now there's a lot of people in Washington that they're fine with it. They're fine with it because it keeps our focus off of them and fighting each other. So now you got Hamlet. You got Inigo Montoya. You got Frank Kessel. I love how Joe Rogan put it.
It's also like, they're like, oh, he's a crazy person. I'm like, yeah, that's the only kind of person that would survive what you try to do to him. Right. That's the only kind of guy that gets through. Like, you want a perfect person? A perfect person morally falls apart by the time they've been indicted and they've 34 counts, felony counts. Like, your whole body's just destroyed by the stress of you possibly going to jail for the rest of your life. You have to be a insane person to ride that out and not look like anything even happened. Then you get shot.
Yeah.
You get up after you got shot. You're bleeding from your ear and you go fight. You got to be a crazy person to get through these. He's a nightmare for anybody that's trying to rig a system. Like, that guy's the nightmare. He's the final boss of you.
It's Mark Mosley Show. Follow Mark on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Mark Mosley. And subscribe for new episodes weekly on your favorite podcast platform.
And now, Shallow Thoughts by Al Ibril.
Trump's policies are toxic, and his government is hurting America in so many ways. But whatever you do, don't shut it down.
Before we get into the hottest topic of the week, I'm talking about ICE. Did you see that the Pope blessed ICE? Yes, did you see this? The Pope blessed, not that ice. Calm down, everybody. Not that ice. He blessed a block of ice from a glacier at an event for climate justice this past week at the Vatican, in which there was then some kind of weird song and ceremony that just seemed really non-religious and more, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Pagan in nature?
We will raise hope by amplifying the voices of youth and grassroots communities. Will you join us?
Laudato si, mi Signore, con tutte le tue creature.
Did the Pope know what he was getting into here? He did put his hand on the ice and bless it, and his hand did not get stuck. That actually might have been amusing. Did anyone challenge him to put his tongue on the ice? You know, do the Pope tongue glacier challenge for TikTok? The Pope got his tongue stuck to a glacier. And for some reason, this was weird. For some reason, Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all people, was there. I was like, what is Arnold Schwarzenegger doing there? I came to see the Holy Father and the big chunk of ice. And, to see if there's an idea for a movie there. Doesn't it sound like a movie? The Pope and the Glacier. We take a simple little thing like this and we make a big budget action movie out of it. Yes, I play the Pope in a future where all of the polar ice caps have melted and they have to save this piece of ice from the terrorists because it's the last piece of glacier ice in the world. And they want to blow it up. And it's a fantastic movie. And we have the big chase scene in the Pope Mobile with my head sticking out of the top of it. And there's a lot of explosions and things blowing up and all of this. And they even have a catchphrase in the movie. And it goes like this. It goes like this. Listen, the Pope is going to put you on ice. That's not bad. That's not bad. No, that's about as good as anything else you and Hollywood have made. That is about as good as anything you've made. The Pope and the Glacier, coming soon to a theater near you. All right, now it's gonna get serious. We're gonna get serious for a little while because the hottest topic of the week, of course, is ICE, not glacier ice, immigrations and custom enforcement. Someone I'm Facebook friends with, which really means nothing in the real world. This person posts, listen. This is what they post. Listen, I don't care how deep into the MAGA rabbit hole you are. If you read Trump's post calling Portland war-ravaged and that he's sending in troops who are authorized to use full force against your fellow Americans, and you don't immediately say that's blanking crazy and rethink your support of him, you are blanking lost as a human being. So off the jump here, what this person is attempting to do is to dehumanize you if you agree with, in any way, shape, or form, with what Trump is doing. I wrote, I have to reject the premise. The local authorities, just like in D.C. and in Chicago, will not do what's needed to have law and order. These local mayors won't handle the anarchy. Local DAs are soft or refuse to prosecute, so you have lawlessness emboldened. Trump must protect federal authorities who are doing their assigned jobs by backing them up with more force to overwhelm violent protesters. Again, the more these people aren't dealt with, the more emboldened they become until people start getting killed. Also, I do not understand how Obama got away with deporting over 3 million people in 8 years. Trump is currently at about 1.8 million and unlikely to defeat the reigning champion of deporting brown people. And when we didn't have this level of violence against ICE when Obama did it. A different person jumps in and says, this is their reaction to what I wrote. Violent crime in D.C. was down 35% from 2023 to 2024. In Chicago, it's down 23%. Portland crime rates declined 17% from 23 to 24. So what premise are you rejecting? I wrote, I'll have to reject that premise. Crime is down, so it's non-existent? You're inferring that groups like Antifa aren't active. ICE is having no trouble in doing their jobs, and Trump is just maximum Hitler, who is sending military troops into cities where, as this other person put it, literally nothing is happening. Because crime is down, there's no trouble for ICE in major cities, is a flawed premise. Both things can be true. So one person hooked on the Antifa thing, and he writes, Antifa as a group, please show me a website, association fees, registration, membership application, logo, uniform, tattoo, preferred footwear, or any evidence of an organization. Anything. Antifa is a philosophy, and as an exploitable, you have been amply fed narratives that make them look real, and you an idiot. So I replied, show me a picture of a Bitcoin. They replied, so your assertion is that Antifa is a tracked, organized, recorded, accounted inventory collective. Cool. Show us that then. I wrote, no, it's decentralized. But is your assertion that because Antifa doesn't have a researchable national structure, that it doesn't exist? You can't show me a picture of a Bitcoin, so that means there is no Bitcoin. If Antifa is a concept, it still has fans, adherents, supporters, financiers. There are people participating in activities attributed to Antifa who's committing acts of violence in the name of Antifa. Are they ghosts? Elves? The ghost of Elvis? Or are they actual human beings? You are playing an absurd word game that you think it's distracting. It's not. So then another person jumps in and takes me on and writes, Mark Mosley, this is the most un-American thing I've ever read. It's a pretty solid pillar of our democracy that the military is not for fighting Americans. It's for fighting foreign threats. They are trained for battle, not law enforcement. Authoritarian dictators turn their military on their citizens. If you are for this, please don't call yourself a patriot, because there's nothing more traitorous to the American ideals than what you are supporting. Why do you hate what America stands for so much? What happened that made you hate your fellow Americans, that you want to go to war with them? Additionally, there is no war on or crime issue in Portland than there is no war or crime issue in Portland than there are in red states and cities, where crime is the highest and on the rise. but I still wouldn't ask American soldiers to turn their weapons on their own. That's incredibly effed up and not why anyone joins the military. They fight for the right for us to protest, not to shoot us when we do. I hope you find your way, and this breaks the cult propaganda you have been fed. Critical thinking and facts are Trump's greatest fear. I wrote, there were actual violations of federal law. It is a violation of federal law to knowingly intimidate, resist, or interfere with federal officers, including ICE agents, while they're performing official duties. For example, at the ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois last week, some protesters attempted to block a vehicle's path toward the building. Paul Ivory, Ray Collins, Jocelyn Robledo, Hubert Mazur, and Dana Briggs have all been charged. There you are. There's some members of Antifa. She replies, so you are on the Gestapo side. You think it's okay for an ICE official to just grab people off the street in unmarked cars, no uniforms, masked faces, and refuse to identify themselves. They were assaulting people and asking questions later. In L.A., they were too scared to go into Watts and Compton and get the criminals, so they were picking up people at their court hearings. What's it like to be on the same side as the KKK? What's it like to vote the same as white Christian nationalists? I wouldn't know. I'm an actual American, and you are authoritarian. You're an authoritarian masquerading as an American. I replied, did ICE wear masks before Trump? Has ICE always used plainclothes officers? Have they always used unmarked cars? Is ICE allowed by law to delay identifying themselves until they get a situation under control? Are there any credible cases of ICE making people just disappear? Let's stop playing stupid word games here. ICE has to hide their faces now, and you know why. Stop pretending no one is trying to make trouble for ICE personnel. In its entire history, ICE has always been allowed to wear face coverings to protect their identities. ICE has always used plainclothes officers and unmarked cars, even during the years when Obama, deported 3 million brown people, including lots of nonviolent non-felons. Was it sick then? Were you silent then, when Obama's jackbooted stormtroopers were rounding up terrified Mexican grandmothers? Come on. Let's stop playing games here. And then they pivot to Germany. Look at Nazi Germany before the war and before the camps filled up. What defined it? Constant scapegoating of minorities, daily attacks on the press as enemies, pressure on courts and lawyers who stood in the way, and a cult of personality leader demanding loyalty above law. That's exactly what Trump is doing now. He hasn't outlawed other parties or built concentration camps, but the playbook is recognizable. Vilify outsiders, delegitimize institutions, punish dissent, and insist only he speaks for the real nation. Those are the opening moves of authoritarianism, the same ones Germany saw in the early 1930s. I replied, early 1930s, because by 1935, Hitler had complete control. He wasn't attempting to control the media, which Trump has failed spectacularly at. He couldn't even keep Jimmy Kimmel canceled. Hitler controlled the media. Trump is attempting to imprison his political enemies. How many of them are in prison? Is the number 0? Another miserable Trump failure. Too slow. He's never going to make it to full-on literally Hitler at this rate. Has he vilified outsiders or just insisted that people come here legally? I guess by your standard, European leaders are Hitler too. Europe overall controls immigration more tightly than the U.S. Smaller inflows, fewer family-based visas, stricter asylum rules. And did Trump succeed in accomplishing any of these Hitlerian goals in his first term? Funny how he didn't. And I think we all remember when Hitler was deposed, then played golf for 4 years and made a dramatic comeback, and was only during his second term that he really morphed into the genocidal maniac that Trump can only dream of being. There is a small window before the midterms for Trump to get those camps open and those death trains running. He just needs to get off Truth Social and stop playing so much golf. And it just kept going. One person pivoted and said, why don't police have to wear masks? ICE has to cover their faces because they're cowards and they know what they're doing is wrong. That racial profiling is wrong. That violently attacking someone that at worst has committed a non-violent misdemeanor is wrong. And I replied, this is normal business. I already pointed out that ICE has always been able to wear masks. You are completely ignoring that and pretending that this is a Trump administration thing. Also, police are allowed to wear masks for safety, anonymity, or tactical reasons. The same reasons ICE would need to wear masks. I also pointed out that Obama also rounded up grandmas in fields and deported 3 million to Trump's 1.8 million so far, but you ignore that and again want to act like this is just a Trump thing. These are facts. These are not my opinions. And as far as due process goes, you do know that there's a due process for coming into America. Into America. There's a due process there too, but you're only concerned with the law in one direction to insulate people who came here illegally from the consequences of their own actions. Why don't the Democrats just change the law? They've had full control of D.C. before, where they had both the White House and a majority in Congress. And ICE wears masks for the same reason Antifa wears masks. According to the Portland chapter of Antifa, it's Rose City Antifa's website. According to their website, anti-fascists that do this work regularly are likely to be targeted by both the far right and the state. So taking measures like wearing masks provides us anonymity that helps us stay safe from state repression and violence. So many people are they're being emotionally manipulated and they're falling prey to confirmation bias. Over the weekend, there's a classic example of this that happened over the weekend. I believe it was on Saturday. Someone puts up this photo, a very grainy photo, zoomed in photo. And basically the caption is that it was an ICE agent zip tying a toddler on the street. And then people had to go back and stealth edit their social media timeline because they eventually did find out within 24 hours that that was a hoax, but it gives them no pause. It gives them no pause to ask themselves, how often am I being lied to and emotionally manipulated by imagery on the internet, on social media? Are any other of these kinds of stories false? Should it have been a big red flag that the mainstream media didn't pick up on the ICE agent zip tying a toddler photo? Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, after all this back and forth that I did with folks on Facebook on this one thread, the weekend caps off with this. And I take no joy in this. I take no satisfaction in this. But near Chicago's Broadview ICE facility, agents on patrol were rammed and boxed in by 10 vehicles. Very dangerous. Imagine how terrifying that must be for the ICE employees that were in this one car or vehicle that was boxed in by 10 other vehicles. When we talk about Antifa and these groups being emboldened by weakness, this is a perfect example right here of what we're talking about. And an armed woman previously accused of doxing ICE agents, allegedly led the attack and was wounded by defensive fire before driving herself to a hospital. I don't want to feel like I'm justified in this debate that I had. Okay, maybe a little bit. Forgive me, I'm only human. We'll lighten it up when we come back.
I'm Donald Trump. We have the best deportation program that you've ever seen. People are saying it's incredible. For years, the Democrats have been saying, don't go, but we are saying, when you go, go in style. That's right. For every unaccompanied minor who voluntarily returns home, we are offering a big fat check for $2,500. And because we are generous people, the best people, we're throwing in some amazing perks. If you self-deport today, kids, you'll also receive a free Roblox gift card, so you can build walls digitally instead of physically. And if you don't have the internet, we'll give you this Lego border wall set. Build it, break it, build it again. You also get this custom MAGA fidget. It spins faster than fake news. A Funko pop figurine of Tom Homan. Look at that, it's a very tiny Tom. He's so cute. But why is he holding a lightsaber? We don't know. You'll get unlimited Fortnite V-Bucks. Why fight deportation when you can just fight Battle Royale? And for a limited time, act fast, you'll also get an official I Deported Myself t-shirt. 100% cotton, very soft. It could have been made in America, even though the tag says it comes from China. It's the Donald Trump Unaccompanied Minors Self-Deportation Program, where we say, go big and go home.
Yeah, you might have seen that. Trump had it was a very small window for any unaccompanied minors. If they wanted to self-deport, they could get a $2,500 cash payout for self-deporting. That's a pretty good deal. $2,500. 2,500 American dollars is going to go a long way in some of those home countries. But speaking of the great replacement theory, in the state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has now signed HB 4211, the Sharia Compounds Law. This is a recent act signed by Governor Greg Abbott. It prohibits residential property developments or compounds that seek to be governed by Sharia law inside the United States, or that operate in ways that could discriminate or restrict property owner rights. It's motivated by a controversy over a proposed development called Epic City, the East Plano Islamic Center project, which some in the state have claimed might try to impose Sharia-based rules or operate as some kind of an exclusive or religious-only community. Governor Abbott made public statements, including on social media, saying he has signed laws banning Sharia law and Sharia compounds, telling people to report attempts at enforcing Sharia compliance in businesses or neighborhoods, which I'm sure a lot of you saw this viral video of a Muslim adherent who was going around to local businesses in some town in Texas saying, okay, you have to be haram, which is the opposite of halal, which means permissible or allowed. Haram is, these are things that are forbidden or prohibited under Sharia law. He was going into local businesses and saying, you can no longer sell any kind of pork products or alcohol products. You can't have gambling. Let's play a little bit of the original video.
Muslim, right? MashaAllah. You know, as a merchant, you have every legal right to sell whatever you want. But as a Muslim, I have a responsibility to tell you, to educate the people and let them know that as a Muslim, you shouldn't sell haram. That the alcohol, the pork, the gambling is all against Islam. And so I'm just letting you know ahead of time, in about 30 days, we're going to start doing demonstrations around the city. But the Muslims that have businesses with haram in it, we'll let the people know that we have to teach the people the best. The Muslims have the best. So let the owners know you should begin to change the inventory, or we're just going to demonstrate. We can't stop you. You have a right to do it, but we have to give the da'wah to let the people know the truth about Islam, okay? So get the haram out of your store. May Allah bless you. I love you for the sake of Allah. Assalamu alaikum.
People are saying that this original video has backfired on these folks and that it is one of the motivations now for why there's so much attention being focused on efforts to let Sharia law creep in the state of Texas. And I mean, I just say, look, this is your fault for wanting to go viral on social media. It was unwise for you to do this. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to do something like this, don't film it and put it on social media. The mafia doesn't do this. The mob doesn't do stuff like this. You'd never hear this from the mob.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Salvatore Gravano, enforcer for the Morano family. We're outside of this bodega, and we're gonna go inside and tell the owner that he needs to pay 10% of his weekly take to the Moranos so nothing accidentally happens to him or his store. You know, it'd be a real shame. Like, I don't know, the place catches fire. Could be bad wiring. It happens. Or, the owner, he accidentally hits himself in the kneecap with a baseball bat a few times. Or all of his top shelf liquor just jumps off the shelf onto the floor. Earthquakes do happen, even in Brooklyn. So come with me, Salvatore Gravano, as we live stream this encounter on TikTok.
All right, and it's time for some good news on the show. We love the good news on this show. Here's a great story out of Pocatello, Idaho. Dave Craning has owned the video stop in Pocatello, for more than 30 years. And of course, almost no one rents videos anymore, and revenue had just dwindled down to a point where Dave couldn't keep the video store open anymore. So he made the heavy decision to close the video stop store forever. But wait, what would that mean to Christina, the video stop's most active customer? Christina has gone to that store every day for the last 20 years with her mother so that she can rent a movie. And every night, Christina eats her dinner and watches her movie. And preserving that routine for Christina matters to the store owner, Dave, because he knows that Christina has Down syndrome. And that routine is comfort, it's security, it's a sense of safety. And Dave thought about it and he said, I don't want to wreck Christina's whole thing by throwing off that daily routine. So Dave had an idea for how he could not throw a big disruption into her world. He happens to also own the convenience store right next to the video stop. So Dave set up, in a corner of his convenience store, Christina's Corner. A little corner, little private video store just for her, with a smaller selection of DVDs, but he knew all of her favorites, and that included a lot of Disney animated films. So he set up a mini video store inside the convenience store with about 200 of her favorite movies. Meanwhile, Christina's mom actually owns a lot of those Disney films. That's not the point. The point is the act of the daily outing to the video store to pick out a movie, go home, watch your movie while you eat your dinner. That's comforting to Christina. So thanks to Dave, the routine continues every afternoon at 3:20. Christina comes in, decides what movie she wants to rent today, pays the couple of bucks that he charges, and then taps his hand to say, thank you, I'll see you tomorrow, my dear friend. Isn't that a great story? And now a not-so-great story. It's time to wrap up the show with our doofus of the week.
You're a big stupid doofus.
No, you are.
No, you.
And you thought only American kids couldn't spell. Over in England, Lee Wilson went to jail because he couldn't spell. He's in trouble for trying to spray paint he's in trouble for trying to spray paint a certain word on his ex-girlfriend's car. By doing so, he caused thousands of dollars worth of damage, making it a felony. But he left out a letter. He left out the letter T, and he called her a Bic and drove off. Now, he didn't get caught doing the spray painting, but then the next day, this idiot sent his ex a text message, again calling her a Bic. Of course, knowing the text was from Lee, it didn't take much for her to put two and two together. She called the cops. She said, look, I got this text message from Lee. He's calling me a Bic, and it's spelled the same way as what was written on my car. The cops confronted Lee Wilson. Couldn't believe how stupid he was. He confessed, and now he's in jail where watch out, he may wind up being somebody's Bic. Well, that's the show. Yeah, we really ended on a high note there, didn't we? Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube. You can find the show, by the way, on YouTube. Hit the bell, subscribe, leave me a comment, and leave me a thumbs up. And leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, even though you know, and I know, this is at best a 2-star show. Thank you, and until next time, may God bless you with health, joy, and wisdom.